The Occupy Oakland protest erupts. Police break out tear gas and flashbang grenades, clearing out hundreds of protesters.
Sky 7 HD is live over the city right now, where there continues to be a strong police presence.
Good evening. I'm Dan Ashley.
And I'm Carolyn Johnson. We have complete live team coverage of a day and night of clashes with police.
Yeah, Sky 7 HD is live over the city right now. It is difficult to see exactly what's going on, but protesters are still on the streets this May Day after a day of clashes running through the city with authorities. ABC 7 News reporter Nick Smith is live at 14th and Broadway to begin our coverage tonight. Nick.
Dan, I just want to give you an idea of how crazy things are out here right now. We just saw a fight break out down the street. I want to give you an idea. It looks like two men just fighting down the street, and this is just one of the things officers have had to deal with today. I want you to know we're at the intersection of 14th and Broadway. There are still evidence of the demonstration that happened earlier, still broken glass, broken containers on the street, and you can still see officers over across the street near the BART station that is covered with graffiti. The demonstration started out peaceful but quickly turned as soon as night fell. Take a look at some of the video that we shot earlier today. There were approximately 3,000 people at Frank Ogawa Plaza at the height of the demonstration, and by nightfall, most of the crowd had left. It was just before 9 p.m. when Oakland police issued 2 orders for the remaining demonstrators to disperse. By this time, the crowd had shrank to about 300 people. It was after the second warning from police that some demonstrators started to move toward the officers and throw things, bottles, glass, liquids, and paint. This officer was covered with what looked to be yellow paint, and according to an OPD spokesperson, he was one of several covered in paint or doused in a liquid tonight. Now, officers ignited a flash grenade, removed the barricades that demonstrators had been carrying, and gave the warning of their plans to use a chemical agent on the remaining demonstrators who were ignoring their orders to leave. This was a different crowd than the demonstrators who had marched earlier, and by most accounts were extremely orderly. We saw some demonstrators in this crowd clearly trying to provoke officers. Now, at the Caltrans office, these men were detained after officers say they were caught breaking the window and spray painting the building. Again, back here live, the evening has been continuously fluid, and what we've tried to do is try to monitor where the crowds were. Following the crowd when they moved from this section was my colleague Laura Anthony, who is here with me right now. And Dan, I want to let you know, Laura, come on in here. My colleague Laura Anthony, who was covering the rest of that story there with me. Laura, I'm going to hand off to you because I know that you followed the crowd after they moved from this point.
Yeah, that's right, Nick. The confrontation here between police and demonstrators set off a whole chain of events. Let's show you what it looked like here from our cameras on the ground here this afternoon. Police in riot gear first cordoned off the intersection and then methodically pushed the demonstrators down Broadway to the north. Anyone who did not follow police orders to disperse was quickly arrested. All the while, police were pushing demonstrators down the street. At one point, we saw demonstrators light a trash can on fire, which was quickly extinguished by police. The scene continued down Broadway to 20th, where demonstrators broke off Broadway and then headed toward the east, where they shattered windows on 2 banks. The Wells Fargo on Franklin still had a wrench embedded in the door, and we found several windows broken at the California Bank and Trust on 20th. Finally, the few demonstrators who were left broke away from the police entirely. That's pretty much how it's been all night. Police regrouping and putting out hot spots of demonstrators as they find them at different points tonight. We have seen police in riot gear block off this intersection and try to move small groups of demonstrators in different directions. And again, we'll see them come back a short time later. At the moment, though, as you can see, relatively peaceful. In Oakland, Laura Anthony, ABC 7 News.
Okay, Laura, Nick, thanks very much to you both. There has been rampant vandalism tonight in Oakland as you're gathering here. Protesters got to at least 2 police cars, including one from Fremont, which had its windshield shattered. Anarchists also hurled a newspaper box onto an unmarked Oakland police car before setting it on fire. ABC 7 News reporter Jonathan Bloom is live at Broadway and 17th, where he saw several people, Jonathan, being arrested tonight.
That's right, Dan, and you can see behind me some of the manpower that police have brought in order to perpetrate those arrests. You can see right now police officers, they have a bus here from the Alameda County Sheriff's Department. They brought in quite a bit of manpower on that bus, and they're also using that bus to conduct body searches of some of the people who they're taking into custody. Off in the distance, you can see there are some protesters who are still gathered on the corner of 17th and Broadway, although many of those protesters have already dispersed. Police have been trying to get them to disperse, in fact, for the last hour by pushing them down the street in their police cars. We want to show you some video of what happened just about 20 minutes ago when a couple of people got into confrontations with the police department in that 17th and Broadway intersection. Police, once again, they had pushed them very gradually, one corner at a time, from Frank-Ogawa Plaza, and eventually got them to 17th and Broadway, where they gave them an order over the PA system to disperse. That's when some people became a little bit unsettled, shall we say, and police had to take a couple of them down to the ground and arrest them. Police were actually arresting people all over this area of Oakland, and actually managed to arrest a lot of people before they actually ended up doing anything destructive. There were some little fires that police put out, but in large part, police took a divide and conquer approach. They would arrest people as incidents were in progress, and then they would take those people, handcuff them, and wait for a large van or a bus to come pick them up and haul them all off to jail in one fell swoop, basically. Video from Sky 7 shows just how dispersed this group was, and this was sort of the plan. Police dispersed that original group of 3,000 to 5,000 protesters, most of whom were here peacefully demonstrating. When only a few hundred remained at Frank-Ogawa Plaza, police essentially encouraged them to break off in all different directions, and then with a tremendous amount of manpower put out the fires, both the literal ones and the figurative ones, as those splinter groups acted up if they didn't disperse as they were ordered to. Now, as we come back here live, you can see that the remaining group of protesters is beginning to break up, and police officers are slowly securing this intersection and making their way out of downtown Oakland as the protesters go their separate ways. Live in Oakland, Jonathan Bloom, ABC 7 News.
All right, thank you, Jonathan. And as you just saw, there have been a number of arrests this evening, and within the past hour, Oakland police held a briefing at the Emergency Operations Center and provided the latest numbers. ABC 7 News reporter Lisa Amin Galician is live for us at the EOC with details. Lisa?
That is very true, Carolyn. You know, the chief did brief us about 30 minutes ago. He gave us a rundown of exactly what happened tonight and why there were so many arrests.
I'm a citizen journalist, and I was on private property over there in the parking lot and was asking the officer, isn't this private property? Is it okay if I'm here? And they chose to grab me.
23 people were arrested tonight for things like failing to disperse, as well as felonies like assaulting a police officer and arson. Hundreds of officers dressed in riot gear lined up at 14th and Broadway and moved the crowd north. They cleared Frank-Ogawa Plaza and moved quickly down Broadway, making arrests along the way.
I personally witnessed and heard the dispersal order given. We heard the countdown. We gave the 5-minute countdown. We gave them time to leave. We gave them an area where they had to leave. And at that point, I made a decision to authorize the officers to make arrests for those that they can who did not leave.
The goal was definitely to thin out the crowd, which did happen. And at one point, we were even warned that gas or other chemicals could be used in the crowd, but that did not happen tonight. We did, however, see one trash can be set on fire. It's not clear who ignited that flame. Officers did say the entire situation turned volatile at around 8:30. That's when an officer tried to arrest someone in the crowd who had a restraining order against them. And at that point, police say about 300 people got involved and started throwing things at officers. Things like paint, bottles, and other debris. Back here live now, we have learned that the chief was monitoring all of tonight's events through streaming video that he was getting from officers. There were actually 3 officers that were wearing remote camera backpacks and sending video back to him live. We are live in Oakland tonight. Lisa Amin Galician, ABC 7 News.
Interesting. Okay, Lisa, thanks very much. Well, this day began with a warning from Oakland police to people and businesses downtown about what this May Day might bring, and it certainly did. Before the demonstrations began, some Oakland businesses went into defensive mode. This Bank of America in downtown boarded up its windows. Oakland police report minor vandalism here. And ABC 7 News captured video of a group of people storming a Bank of the West on Broadway, causing some minor damage and throwing around paper.
We need you to clear the intersection!
But it turned tense around noon with a confrontation between police and demonstrators at 14th and Broadway. A woman on a bike was tackled to the ground, handcuffed, and taken away. Police declared the demonstration an unlawful assembly and ordered the crowd to disperse. The clashes escalated, with police using a taser on at least one person and officers being splashed with paint. In an effort to control the crowd, police say they set off at least one flash grenade and used tear gas on 3 occasions. Then, around 4 this afternoon, a large contingent of police officers cordoned off another intersection. They were accompanied by a huge armored vehicle from the Alameda County Sheriff's Department. The goal seemed to be to push demonstrators north. From there, we were in the midst of a march by about 1,500 protesters as they headed up International Boulevard for the rally this evening at Frank-Ogawa Plaza. So that gives you a timeline of what has occurred to this moment. And as you look live from Sky 7 HD, again over Oakland at Broadway and 17th, you see protesters and police there. It has been a long, anxious night in Oakland.